You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. For over 40 years, B&H has been the professional source for photography, video, audio, and more. For your favorite gear, news, and reviews, visit us at bnh.com or download the B&H app to your iPhone or Android device. Now here's your host, Alan Weitz.
Greetings and welcome to the B&H Photography Podcast, which according to the ratings is rapidly gaining traction out there. To those of you who have spread the word and or left positive comments on iTunes, thank you. We aim to please and your feedback is quite valuable to us. I think I speak for John, Jason, and everybody else involved in this podcast and say we're real happy with how things have been evolving here and our goal is to make it that much better. Today we're going to be talking about photography blogs, review sites, and lest we forget those oh-so-addictive photo rumor sites. Coffee would not be the same without them. Our guests today are Kevin Raber, the CEO and publisher of Luminous Landscape, and Jason J. Herman, founder and publisher of Sony Alpha Lab. Kevin, welcome to you.
Thanks very much. Happy to be here.
And Jason, welcome to you too.
Thanks for having me. A pleasure to be here.
Full disclosure, Luminous Landscape and Sony Alpha Lab are both B&H affiliates, which means you can click on links to many of the products mentioned on these sites, purchase them from B&H and other affiliate vendors. In return, Luminous Landscape and Sony Alpha Lab receive a small percentage of the sale. That said, let's talk about the history of these sites. Kevin, Luminous Landscape is one of the original sites for photography. It goes back to 1999, if I'm not mistaken,
That's correct.
Which is pretty much when digital started. Give us a little bit of the background, how it started, why it started, whose idea it was.
Well, I'll try to give you the Reader's Digest version, although it probably turned into a novel because it does have a lot of history. The founder of the site is Michael Reichman. Many of our readers know him, and he was encouraged to start the site by his partner and friend Chris Sanderson. And it was like Michael started doing kind of like a little blog sort of thing, and he said, well, we should turn this into something bigger. And of course, it was right at the dawn of the digital age. And Michael just kind of started picking up cameras, playing with them, and he developed a word and a following, mainly because he was a good writer, but also he was a good articulator. And his articles help people understand the digital changes that were taking place, how to move from analog to digital, what the different formats were, and readership just built up, as we see with a lot of different sites, exponentially.
Who's the competition back then, or was there any?
Well, I don't know if you can really ever say, and I have had this discussion with Chris and Michael many times. In the web business, I don't consider there to be competition. It's not like, we're selling products and see who gets a bigger sale. You can look at the ratings and other things like that. But at that particular time, there weren't too many other sites. Rob Goldbreath, for one, and Fred Miranda. There's some of the old guys out there that are, and they're really probably not old guys, but I mean old as far as sites go.
I think it was also Digital Darkroom I used to cover back then, but then he got married and had a kid and never came back.
Yeah,
again.
some of them come in and come out, and it's kind of interesting the way it evolves. What happened is there were some health issues with Michael a few years ago, and in my relationship with Michael, when I was with Phase One, selling him some digital backs, and we became friends and would go out shooting together. And over a couple glasses of wine, and this is the way it sometimes happens, I had mentioned to him, I said, have you ever thought you want to do something different or needed some help or wanted to, move on to some other projects? Let me know, because, this would be a cool site to work for and do things with, because we shared the same passion. And I must tell you, if there's one thing between Chris and Michael and myself that we have, is it's a passion. It's a passion to share, it's a passion to teach, and it's a passion about, the website. And some of the cool things that have happened along the way, we also started doing videos. We did some of the very first tutorial videos on Lightroom, and we also made video journals. So we would do travels and to go with photographers elsewhere. And eventually these video journals were a subscription, and you could buy a DVD and they would be shipped to you. And eventually it became electronic. And, now it's just a whole, side of the video content on our website. We don't actually do journals anymore because otherwise you'd wait 6 months to get all the content that we're releasing on a regular basis.
Right.
So, it's kind of grown and changed, and it's been a lot of fun. So I'm happy to be part of it now, and essentially the CEO and publisher. It's basically me doing the site with Chris at this point, and Michael has moved on to still contribute articles and have doing some fun stuff, but his focus is on the endowment, and maybe we can talk about
That
what we're doing with that later on.
One question I do, was it red or white wine that you had at that meeting?
I'm a red wine guy.
Jay, you came along about 10 years later. Your site started off about 2009, a whole different landscape, to borrow a word.
Yeah.
Tell us about how you got started in it.
Well, I started similarly in a lot of ways. I was inspired by amazing websites like Luminous Landscape, for example, and I decided that once I figured out how to do photography and was doing a lot of professional work, I enjoy helping people, it seemed like, and I figured, let me start making some tutorials and things like that. So I went down that road and then started reviewing cameras. And when I got my hands on a Sony Nex C3, that was the first Sony camera I ever got, I was blown away by the cost, the size, the weight, and the quality of the unit. So I decided at that point to, why not fire up a site and dedicate it to just Sony equipment for the most part. And that's when Sony Alpha Lab was born in 2009. And it's since then evolved to YouTube videos as well. So now I do video reviews and, basically content articles describing how to use the camera, what the camera's capable of doing, and perhaps best practices and user experience. I try to share like real world perspective as opposed to highly technical because there's already sites that do that. So I try to focus more on the regular everyday shooter, I guess is a good way to put it.
Who discovered who? Did you discover Sony or did Sony discover you?
I don't know. I got the camera. I wasn't really interested in Sony. I was a Canon guy. I mean, I had Canon 5D Mark II and all the L lenses and all that. And I never even considered Sony, like, no offense. I mean, at the time. But
so how come you're not Canon Labs?
There's a lot of other sites that already do that.
Okay.
Was one reason. But more, that Canon is, in my opinion, like hardcore pro gear. And it's just, their lower end gear, in my opinion, just isn't as good for the money as Sony. Like, and the mirrorless form factor was just revolutionary. It just blew my mind that this little compact camera with such a short flange distance would allow you to attach any lens. And the versatility of that, it just overwhelms me. I just was like, I can't believe I can use any lens on this camera and from any manufacturer with an adapter. And I need to show people that this is possible. Like, you can get vintage lenses on eBay for pennies and shoot amazing stuff that you'd never be able to do normally with a, $400 camera body. It's just, you can't do that with Canon and Nikon. And, so that was what was just overwhelming. Like, it just grabbed me. It just grabbed me. And I was like, I got to investigate this further. And then just started getting more and more into it, and then Full Frame came out and it was like, oh my God, Full Frame.
So do you think that your sites and all of the other ones out there are the magazines of the day? Because it seems that it used to be you go into a newsstand and you have a bunch of photo magazines, just slews of them. Now you have like 3 or 4 of them maybe. 7 if you count the international market, and you have a zillion photo sites. Are these the new magazines? Are they the replaced magazines? That's the impression that I get.
Well, there are some sites that basically are making an electronic version of a magazine, and there's some good ones out there that publish a magazine every month digitally. But if you take a look at Luminous Landscape, for example, we try to publish something every 3 days. So if you take that times the amount of days per month, most likely you're getting more articles and more content that you would than you would from a magazine itself.
And you also have the option of correcting mistakes, whereas a printed magazine doesn't. Once it goes out, that's it. It's
true.
Gone.
It's funny about the way we publish.
It's very organic. That's one of the things I like about sites.
And well, it is. If somebody points out, sometimes I'll have a reader point out, well, do you know you made a spelling error, or that proper punctuation? This comes from the
Brits.
Brits.
Wouldn't be so rude, would they?
I get that a lot. I get that
Come on,
constantly.
man. I did.
It's reassuring to know they actually read them. That's right.
Well, and
nice.
and it is. It's we can just go in and do a quick edit. But
Yeah.
normally our publishing process is when I write something, I tend to write like I talk. So I have somebody who then goes in and corrects and looks at grammar and so forth, so that we do maintain some quality. Chris then goes in and he kind of goes through it. So we all kind of, rake through the articles that we do with each other to make sure that, eventually it comes out to be something on the clean
is it
side.
just the staff of 3, though, really? Or
That
do you
is
have
what
copy editors
that's all we are.
Web
It's a
designers?
very small company, and we work very, very long, hard hours because it's amazing how much time it takes. That's something when I started.
Unconscionable. People have no idea.
Yes,
They
how
have no
hard could
idea.
this be to run a website? Well,
Is it safe to assume Sony Alpha Lab is also is under 100 employees?
It's just me. It's just me. Safe to assume. Yeah.
How'd you come up with the name?
I just like the term lab. I had this vision in my mind to set up a lab downstairs to do testing, and I wanted it to be 3D. I didn't want just this flat lab like, DP Review has, for example, like when they do that test chart. So I always had this in the back of my mind of a lab, like, like bubbling, I just,
Man caved in and work.
yeah.
Breaking Bad a little bit. Do you have a Winnebago?
But that's pretty much where it came from. I mean, Sony Alpha made sense. In hindsight, I shouldn't have used that name because Sony won't talk to me, and it's because Sony's in my name. So if it wasn't a Sony site, I'd probably have all the Sony equipment just coming to me for free all the time.
Oh, really?
But
So
because they will not even
so you
recognize
put their
me.
name out and they're not talking to
They
you?
won't recognize my site. No. I've contacted them, tried many, many, many times. They just sorry, legally your name can't be in the categories, it can't be on the title, nothing. So they have nothing. But unfortunately, I learned that after the fact. But in the end, it doesn't matter. As you said, it's you just put out good content and you do what you do, and people will, if they like it, they'll come back and look forward to new articles. So I just do it that way. I don't really worry about that stuff. It's not important at this point in my life. I just want to do a good article, and help people.
But they never stop you from using the name Sony in the name of your company.
They never tried to.
So
no.
they don't mind you putting their name out there, but okay.
Well, there are a lot of sites with Sony's name.
Oh,
and if you
sure.
do
Yeah.
holy cow, Sony Alpha Rumors and Sony this and Sony that. They must not be talking to a lot of people.
Well, Sony Alpha Rumors, I know Sony was going after them, and they were debating changing their name at one point, but then Sony backed off, and so that they never came after me. But I remember reading that. So
How did Luminous Landscape get that name?
Originally we were probably more focused on the landscape photographer, and I know Michael and Chris batted around a number of ideas, and one word led to another, and it turned out to be an appropriate.
One drink led to another. And then,
Well, most likely back then. I wasn't part of the naming process, but I'm sure there was alcohol involved somewhere along the line.
Question for you. How long did it take before you were able to comfortably say it's been worth it? And did that moment come before or at the point where the site became profitable?
pretty quickly, actually. The feedback came back right away. I thank you for this type of review. You're more real world. You talk, you write how you talk, similar to what Kevin just said, and you're helpful. You answer questions. A lot of people don't answer questions. So the feedback came back immediately that I was doing the right thing. It seemed like for where I was headed. So I was trying to focus on Sony and trying to help people show what these cameras can do. And the feedback came back immediately. I sent a couple links to Sony Alpha Rumors. They shared it. And then before you know it, you have a lot of people checking it out. And if they like it, they share it. Pretty immediate.
I think Michael found that out pretty quickly when he started monitoring the responses that were coming back as far as emails going. And, there are tools that started coming into play, such as Alexa rating and 3D stats, where you can start watching the number of hits and page views go up, and they eventually put a counter on the page, and it grew very rapidly at to a point where the numbers were staggering of who was visiting a homemade site, basically. And I think that was kind of the magic back then. It was a homemade site, and there was a lot of trust in what Michael shared, because it was what other people were either finding out for themselves and or learning from. So, and to today, it's still a very popular site. One of the things that I remember when I came on board, Michael was teaching me all the ins and outs of the site. There's over 6,700 other sites linking into Luminous Landscape as a resource. And, that's probably more valuable than anything else in regards to, driving business to the site. And we monitor our stats and all the different things very, very carefully, and have managed to stay very up there in regards to the ratings and so forth as far as an audience goes. And of course, a lot of things are changing today, and we can hopefully discuss a little bit about changes in audience and the whole business model.
I think that's very important. That's what keeps people. They're like, oh, okay, this is worth sharing with somebody, as opposed to, oh, that was interesting. There's a difference. There's that threshold where someone will share it or link back, like you were saying, 6100. When you get people coming in from other sources. Oh, I was referred to you on the DP Review forum to check out your site or whatever. That's exactly how. Those are the best types of links. I totally agree.
Yep.
So now you have all of these readers, you have all of these enthusiasts, you have all of these followers, and you have all these people sharing sites going back and forth. How is it all funded? We mentioned up front that you guys are affiliates, as most of these sites are. If somebody reads about a product on your site and they click on it and buy it from B&H or somebody else, you get a few points, a percentage of it, and it all adds up. And that's basically you running a store. What other methods do you have aside from that? Because again, there has to be some kind of a financial payoff at the end of the day to make it worthwhile.
Well, you got the Google ads, of course. You have ad revenue. You can sell space on your website to other websites if they're interested in that. I don't do that, but a lot of sites do.
Is there a reason why you don't, or you
just logistically and the time? I just unfortunately haven't had the time to venture out and offer things like that, and dealing with the background work is very time consuming, and I just haven't. I have a full-time job, so I don't need the money, arguably,
Right.
So I don't really do it for the money.
It doesn't hurt, though.
No, it helps. So, yeah, don't get me wrong. I don't turn it away. I mean, no one's going to turn money away. But, there's a lot of different ways you could do that. But I do see selling on the side of a website is a good way. Also, subscriptions you could do if you wanted, or you could do workshops like Kevin was saying. But there's also now fan funding pages you could use. I actually just signed up for this fan crowdfunding site called Patreon. Mm-hmm. And it's a way that users, if they like your site, they can give you like $1 a month or something. It's totally voluntary, but it's like a way to say, hey, Jay, here's a beer. I appreciate that help. Thanks. There's little things. There's all different ways like that where you can try to maybe get, a couple dollars here or there a month. And at the end of the month, you have enough to pay the bills, or at
it's
least
virtual panhandling. It's great.
Arguably, yeah. Or begging, e-begging they call it. A lot of words for it, But the bottom line is, there is a value to what we do. I mean, people come and they get something from you. Like they get something out, like, oh, now I know how to use my camera better. Like there's a value to that. You used to have to, what would you do before?
The gear that you get do you pay for it yourself? You're buying everything yourself, or do you you're getting it through affiliates or?
Oh, the gear that I
Sony,
review?
Obviously, yeah.
No, the gear that I review, I get from BH Photo.
Okay.
They send me gear. I ask for a certain amount of gear, and then they'll send it to me like once a month, pretty much, and then I'll review it and send it back.
We're a little bit different at Luminous Landscape, which I'm very proud of. And originally, there was no advertising. And at some point, Michael decided to start selling ads because people were asking, can we put ads on your site? When you have a site with as many viewers and the demographics that we have, that became, very important for the vendor. So eventually now we have advertising.
It's nice when people say, can we give you money, rather than going to them and say, can I have some money?
So, hey, that is nice.
There is something nice about that.
This is a business model, and we'll talk. I'll progress into a little bit about the whole business aspect of things. So we started running ads on Luminous Landscape, and we also had videos that we were selling tutorials for. So that became a very big part of the income at one particular point, specifically when Lightroom was new, and we had a great 9-hour tutorial in Lightroom, and sold thousands of those. So that became a good.
And these you also did in-house, or did you get it
No, they were all done in-house.
So everything you're doing is...
Chris Sanderson, I'll mention his name. He's the guy behind all the videos. And a partner in the business with us, and he handles the whole video side of things, and that's changing too. We'll talk hopefully a little bit about that, because that's a huge change coming on board with all the different aspects of things. But our model is based upon advertising, videos, and our workshops. And the workshops were usually all-inclusive, high-end workshops to Antarctica, and we do one of those every year. We fill a boat with 60, 70 people. Last year we did 2, and this year we've got one in November, which is a 3-week trip to both South Georgia Island and Antarctica. and they're remarkable, life-changing experiences, and they're all photographers. So that was our model. Recently, we had to make some choices as we're watching the business model change. Advertisers are saying, well, we're going to pay less. A lot of photographers out there doing workshops, so that is being diluted to, there's a lot of choices as far as workshops go and who you go to.
And I'm sorry, are advertising are paying less because there's more sites out there?
I think there are more, when there's more sites, but they also are aware that ad blockers, which is a major life changer for many websites, are coming into play very big time, where people can opt to block ads. So
it made a huge difference.
And so this is a big changer, because people go, oh, I can buy this app and block all the ads from disturbing me on the site. And a lot of that was generated because of these Google AdSense ads. Now, Luminous Landscape doesn't have pop-up ads. We don't do Google AdSense, and the only affiliate we work with is B&H. There are a lot of sites where, you'll see an announcement and you'll see Adorama, B&H, and, Amazon, and, any others that might be relative to affiliate programs out there. And, that's the way they make their money. That's not the distraction that we want to have at Luminous Landscape. And if we do deviate anyway, and we just went to a membership site and talk about deviation, it's pretty interesting the feedback you get from your readers very quickly. Our readers are loyal. They've been with us a long time. And, if you change the font, you hear about it.
Now, one of the things you're going to be doing now, or just started doing, you have a paid subscription base. What's the difference between what you get free and what you pay for, and why did you do that? What was the?
I think it's a thing that's coming of age, and many sites are beginning to have to look at, if this is our business model and this is how we're doing business, and you look at revenue streams and the different aspects of, keeping you alive as a business, you have to make some choices. And Chris and Michael and I took a drive from Portland, Oregon to the Palouse, and we made a decision that, we have a lot of good content, but if we are going to grow into the future with what our dream has originally been, and to share the passion of photography and be a resource for photographers, that the only way we could do that is to come up with a new model of monetization. And, we batted around $29, $59, $79. And, all of a sudden it was like, what are we doing? We have a load of readers and subscribers. We would love to continue with a free model, but it's just almost impossible. When you look at what it takes to create the site, maintain the site, and do all the different things, to come to New York like we have and create 3 or 4 days of content, you're talking expenses. This is a business. And as a result, no different than any other business, we had to find a way to do it. So we said, let's make it simple, $1 a month.
And how's the feedback been for that?
Amazingly good. What we did, and what this was, I think, the clincher, and this is where I think we're going to see, some major things, is by changing to this membership model. We also took all the video content, which used to cost $150 a year if you wanted to have a subscription to the video content, and made that part of the $12 model. So you get all the content that we offer up on a regular basis, 3 articles a week, and from some great contributors from us, good gear reviews. You also get all the videos, not only the videos that we're producing, and we've got a ton of them in the can and that we're working on, because we believe that video is a very important part of content these days. But you get all the past videos, all the video journals, all the tutorials, all for $12, not a month, a year. And, this is all of a sudden a new model. And a lot of this was inspired because the trip we came from was where a number of other websites, we were invited to a launch of a product, and a lot of the content providers were there. And a lot of them were sharing the same things. The ad rates are going down, and they didn't have videos. They didn't have workshops as an income stream. If you're going to really try to maintain and be viable in the future, you got to exist.
My feeling is always that if getting something for free and paying for it gives it a different value also. I think when people pay for something, they also appreciate it and maybe even gain a new level of respect for whatever you're doing.
Yes, we had a load of people when we started this, and we were going to make the whole site a pay site, have objections to things. Now, we listen to our readers one way or another. We hear them.
Right.
And one of the main objections was the forum has been such a big part of our website, and that's visited very heavily. And we heard our readers, and we made the pay site everything but the form.
So the
you
form
can
is
still
free, and that's good.
Now, we do have an option saying if you're going to sell something on the forum and make money, you might as well, you have to become a member to do that.
So here's a question for you. Something that's interesting about all of these photo sites is that they're founded and run by photographers. They're not writers, but much of the content is written. So how did you find making the transition from being a photographer to somebody who creates pictures with words, which is an art in itself, and it's not easy?
No, like Kevin said earlier, I just kind of write how I talk. And when you're reading it, it kind of sounds like I'm just talking to you. So it's not necessarily written like how a writer would write. But over time, you learn and you try to paint the picture or share a funny moment to make the reader more engaged.
You be conversational rather than technical.
Exactly.
Really.
That's what I tried to do. And I try to relate more personal things into my writing to make people feel like, oh, I can relate to that, and things like that. So I've kind of moved that direction, but I've never really dove into learning how to write, like taking a course or anything like that. So I'm not sure if any other people have, but...
Now, you mentioned earlier that you felt that you've definitely made a transition since the first time you wrote to where you are right now.
It's kind of funny to move from management kind of business aspects of things and being able to speak in front of the public and teach, which I did very well, to actually trying to articulate that through the keyboard. And Michael is just the most articulate, interesting person when he writes, and product of Canadian education versus an American education problem. So nothing's worse than being...
But he had to wait 6 months to see the principal.
First off, I'm not the best typist in the world, and it's hard to get started. But one of the most satisfying things for me over the last few years is once I can finally isolate myself and stay focused on writing and really work hard on doing it, because it's work for me to write. It's the most rewarding part. It's a whole new, kind of passion I'm beginning to find, is I'm loving doing what I'm doing. But, I do rely on somebody else to take a look at the grammar and the spelling side of things afterwards, because I read all my errors just the way I kind of typed them out.
Do you hire copy editors or
well, it's not so much.
Or?
Yeah, it's a copy editor. It's somebody who is basically an educator in that side of things, and she reads through the content and changes it so that the grammar is correct, and she watches for the times where I have 3 "thes" in the word rows for some reason.
This is not a full-time staffer, though. This is not full-time staff.
No, she's part-time on contract staffer. So we're not to that point yet. But
plus, people are photographers coming in, and they're not writers themselves, and they're not really looking to read a novel. They're looking to get information and learn something. And of course, there's some people like that happen to be teachers and stuff, and they'll let you know that you got everything wrong. But for the majority, it seems for me, at least at my site,
I have to ask now, is that all of these sites have been educating photographers and making a lot of people extremely knowledgeable and experts in many, many fields and aspects of photography. And they like writing back to all of these sites. There are some people that just go trolling all day long for this sort of thing, and they'll take any opportunity to have their name show up on the internet. I'm sure you both have to field a lot of that. How do you deal with that? Where do you draw the line?
At Luminous Landscape, we don't have comments to an article. We have a forum. And if you want to comment on that article, you have to join the forum. So you have to go through a process and answer some very difficult questions so that we know you're not like a robot.
So you pre-qualify everybody.
Well, nobody's pre-qualified. We don't say no. If you can,
it definitely weeds out a lot of the trolls, though.
But it does weed out the trolls and the spiders. You have to answer a number of questions like, what's 6 + 3, times 2? And you'd be surprised how many people write, okay, what's the trick question? Because I don't think I got the answer right. I can't get into the form. So that happens, and we continually change those questions. So there's no comments on an article. So we avoid a lot of the negativity. But if you do want to comment, you can start a topic on our forum about the article and begin to engage in a discussion. So there's a difference between leaving a comment or being part of a discussion on the article itself.
Oh, well, we do a little bit different at Sony Alpha Lab. I actually do allow comments on actual articles. And what I do is I moderate all of them to weed out, arguably the bad ones. But 99% of the comments are good, usually. And I do enjoy having the comments below the article specifically because it answers a lot of questions. People will ask questions related to a camera and or lens, and maybe I didn't cover that specific thing, and they'll ask questions, and then other readers will then read the comments and ask questions on those comments. So it helps drive the article, I believe, and help add to the content of the article in a lot of ways.
And do you have cases where someone will give the wrong answer? And
sure.
Do you moderate that and never put it up, or you just kind of respond? And
No, I put up almost everything. Only if someone's throwing out hate or something really negative or yelling, that's the only thing I block. Any kind of question or anything like that, I always allow, and I try to just answer as best I can in a positive manner. And that really diffuses any negativity. Like sometimes people will be angry that whatever, I mentioned that this lens might be better than the one they have. And they're like, well, my lens is better, or you know what I mean? And they get angry because they think that they made the wrong decision. But that's not really the case. They didn't make the wrong decision, but so you just reply as such. I try to be, well, that's also a good lens. This one I just feel, or whatever. And it usually diffuses any kind of, but it's easy to get caught in a trap there. And that's something that I learned over time.
Is this something that nowadays, let's say in the film era compared to the digital era, or even now we're in the smartphone era, whatever you want to call it. Do you think people's opinions are stronger
I think
these
people's
subjects?
opinions are stronger. I think there's a lot of people that spend a lot of time on forums. I think there's a lot of people that hide behind their keyboards. But don't get me wrong. For every one of those, there's probably 10 people that have very good intentions with a lot of knowledge that enjoy sharing what they've learned in their experiences. And I think that's what makes the strength of the forum work. And so sometimes you got to take the pepper with the salt.
Exactly what you were saying is what I was thinking the whole time. Like, you get people that contribute, and they love to help people. So you get these experts come in. Like, I got a bunch of Sony artisans on my forum that stop by, and they'll throw, they read, but they don't often comment, but they're there. So I could see that they're there on the bottom, like Spencer Pablo. He's one of the guys who comes on there, and it's just cool to see. Like, eventually people will be struggling with something, and I'll look and I'll say, nah, I think that guy will be able to, let me let that guy handle this, and then I'll watch him grow, and then before you know it, now that guy's like, oh, I'll give him like a reward for that. You can reward members for doing something. So I'll give them, and then they're like, oh, I just helped that guy. I got a reward. They get that little feeling in their belly, and before you know it, they're jumping to help people. Now they're researching stuff, So it's like it's the community of the forum can be amazing.
Any good stories about photographers that have gotten together, or friendships and relationships that have grown through the forums or through the sites?
I think there's a lot of that. I've made a point specifically sometimes if I know I'm going to a certain region, to call up one or two of the more active forum users that I know that are part of it and say, hey, let's get together for coffee and go do a walkabout and do some shooting together. And it's really, really nice, specifically sometimes when you get to an expo or a convention and you meet people. I was in Amsterdam about a year ago coming back from a workshop, and I'm just doing my thing along the canal shooting pictures. And 3 people stopped me and said, we watch and read your forum and your site, and thank you very much. It's nice to see that, and it's a community, and I love that part about it.
And what do you guys think of rumor sites? Any?
I think there's a place for them. I will read rumor sites because I find they're interesting, but I've always found never, trust the rumor. There's too many rumors, and and a lot of leaks. It's pretty funny how
they're more wrong than accurate.
Well, so we get a lot of cameras in, sometimes 2 or 3 weeks or a month before they're actually released. And it's fun to actually look at the real product and compare it to the rumors. And it's 50-50, quite honestly. Sometimes they're dead on and sometimes they're so wrong.
Well, what's hard for us is we have a very good relationship with all the vendors out there, every one of them pretty much. And I have a drawer full of NDAs. So it's funny when we start seeing the rumors and start seeing the little things on the forum, we can't talk a lot about it.
Right.
And we won't, we sometimes get cameras ahead of time, but we won't actually test with that camera. When we want to give a hands-on review, which is what we do at Luminous Landscape, we don't want to be the first out the door. We don't want to, make press release announcements. We don't say anything until we have something to say about it. There's too many sites you can go to for rumors, and they're fun to read. I mean, I have my morning breakfast with them.
About the rumor sites, and this gets back to one of my earlier questions. Why do you think there are rumor sites nowadays? Did that exist before? I mean, in, let's say, in the pre-digital era, did people worry about what was,
because
down the line?
we would buy a Nikon FTN and keep it for 6 years, and when
The Nikon F3 was made for 26 years.
Yeah,
So
or a
the rumor
Hasselblad
says
500 CM. It's like, okay, I finally had enough money to buy this camera. It's not going anywhere for 10 years. It'll last forever. The times have changed, and what's happened, I think, here with photography in the last 10 years is gear. People are just addicted by the technology that goes with it, and I'm more or less guilty.
Yeah, totally guilty.
Gear side of things, camera bag side of things. Oh, geez,
It's overwhelming.
I have to go to group session every Tuesday night for this. But it's a problem. But it's also fascinating. So obviously, rumor sites are going to exist a lot of times because people want to know what's coming. It's like, well, okay, how fast are things changing? And things
Should
are
I buy
changing
this camera or
so
should I wait?
quick.
Like, when is the 6100 coming out, for example? I want to buy the 6000, but if the 6100 comes out next week, I won't forgive myself. So they just keep checking the rumor sites and keep checking and checking.
And this is what I've been wanting to get at this whole time. Shouldn't the people that are spending their time worrying about what next camera is coming out just be out using the camera they have, taking pictures?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I mean, isn't that what we're at here? And I'm sure you guys are photographers first, but how many people out there are not even shooting? They're just reading.
That's
A lot.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them.
Yeah.
And we hear it on the forum every now and then. Somebody gets a little snarky and they go, all right, enough. Just go out and take a picture.
We talked about establishing these sites. We talked about funding these sites. We talked about making money from these sites. Luminous Landscape has taken a little bit of a different turn on things right now. You're not just having contests, you're giving grants to photographers. You now have the Luminous Landscape Endowment Program, in which you're funding people to go out and shoot their own projects. That, to me, is A, wonderful, B, fascinating. Could you give us some information about that?
Okay, I'm going to basically give Michael all the credit. Michael's had some challenges over the last few years health-wise. And when you start having challenges, you begin to think, legacies and what am I all about? The whole concept of the Luminous Landscape was a site that would give back to the readers, good content and good material. And he thought, what can I do? I want to encourage photographers to apply for a grant, and if it's a good application, we'll award them X amount of dollars to go out and fulfill that wish, that desire of theirs to go, photograph the haystacks of, Nebraska, or take a trip to Antarctica or something along that line. And as a result, knowing a lot of people both in and out of the industry, we got a large amount of contributions. A surprisingly number of contributions. So if you
Are
go
these from individuals or from companies?
a lot
or
of
a mixture?
them, right in the beginning, it was from individuals, because while these individuals were contributing to the site, we were also applying for our 501c, which is the nonprofit status. We received that at the end of last year, December, on our first go-round. It takes a long time to get through, and usually you have to go through several iterations. We had good people working on it, and we've achieved that status. And that's a big stepping stone, because now corporations and other companies can look at what we're doing and contribute and form their own grants, which we encourage. Meaning, if you're XYZ company and you want to give a grant, whether it be with your product or focusing on a particular aspect of some topic, then somebody can apply for a grant in that area. And we have a really good board of judges and a good board of directors. And those judges will evaluate those, and twice a year we'll award a grant.
Yeah, that's an amazing thing you guys are doing. That really
Thanks.
is amazing.
So what kind of directions do you see for Sony Alpha Labs based on where you've been, where you are, and where you'd like to see your site go?
Well, I can't emphasize enough. I share so much of the same passion as Kevin here, and I'd love to go in the direction of a lot of those things, like workshops, things like that. But I also have been heading heavily towards video and using YouTube as a tool to create productions that vary. Some can be reviews. YouTube's the ability to use video is so powerful, because you have I mean, you could show off what cameras can do, but you can also utilize it as a tool, like by using a green screen. You could create so many different things with video that you can't really do with pictures and writing.
Well, my suggestion, obviously, and if you haven't figured out, I'm pretty passionate about things.
Yes.
You seem to be very passionate about what you're doing with the Sony cameras, and gosh, they're damn good pieces of gear. I certainly enjoy them. And you're going to reach that point where you're going to have to decide. And, I have no doubt, based upon, listening to you and seeing what you've already done with the site, that you'll succeed. And you'll know when the time is right.
Oh, well, I appreciate that
and,
confidence.
all of a sudden you'll be home and spending more time with the kids, but also doing what you want to do. So, and you just remember, you're going to have that day where you're going to say, oh my God, I'm going to have to make a decision. And then you're going to probably have days you have remorse, but if you march forward, you're going to succeed tremendously. You have it built into you. I can tell by just sitting next to you for the last hour or so. So,
well, this is the
really
point where I
appreciate
say, and they lived happily ever after. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, John, our producer and my co-pilot. And thank you, Jason Tables, our engineer. Give us your opinions on Twitter at BHPhotoVideo with the hashtag BHPhotoPodcast. And please rate and leave your review on iTunes. My name is Alan Weitz. Thank you so much for tuning in today.
thanks, Alan. It was
Thank
great
you.
being here. Yeah.